because society is not made for people with disabilities. It's made for able-bodied people. And of course, there's a social model of disability now, which tries to implement things into society to make it accessible. But is it always accessible? No. And I think that's a huge barrier for, I'm speaking on behalf of probably a lot of wheelchair users and people with disabilities, is not having the access to go to places you want to go and having that kind of, thought process, is it going to be accessible?
You're listening to The Little Podcast, the podcast where we reflect on different topics each week together. All episodes are aired on Unity FM 93.5 on Wednesdays at 1 p.m. Their website is linked below if you'd like to tune in and be the first to hear new episodes each week. But of course, they will all also be available on my blog, www.littlemisszenblog.wordpress.com, as well as on all major podcast platforms. In this episode, I am joined by the amazing Zaynab Rauf, and we talk all about her story and why sharing her story is so important to her. And then we discuss what living with her disability is like, difficulties and all, and how she stays motivated through thick and thin. So InshaAllah, I hope you enjoy it. Here it is. Assalamu alaikum everyone, welcome back to the Little Podcast. So, I hope everyone's well. Today's episode I'm very excited for, because with me in the virtual studio, I have one of my favourite people. She is a good friend of mine, and she's got her own Instagram page, but we'll get into that in a bit. But first of all, I'd like to introduce Zaynab. How are you? Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam. I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good, alhamdulillah. So, tell us a bit about yourself. Who are you and how are you doing?
So, my name is Zaynab Rauf and I am 20 years old. I go to university in Leeds and I'm studying speech and language therapy in my final year now. Alhamdulillah, it's gone so fast. I'm a wheelchair user, so got to check that in because that is part of me, a big part. And I love cats.
Oh, that's so cute. Yeah, you have 3 cats, don't you?
Yeah, and I also love Zaina as well. So.
Aww, love you too. So, today's topic is all about motivation. And when I thought of this topic, I thought, you know what? Zaynab is a perfect person to talk about this topic with because, like you said, you're a wheelchair user, and we're going to get into that in a second, but obviously that's going to need a lot of motivation. And just talking to you, like, in general, we've had so many, like, inspiring conversations. But yeah, so what's your story? Like, let's go from the start.
Okay, so what's my story? I'll start from the beginning and take you all the way through to now. So my story started from, obviously, when I was very young. My mom had me, and my mom didn't know that I was diagnosed with my condition. My condition is spinal muscular atrophy type 3, where muscles generally waste over time. But I won't go into much detail about the condition because you can Google that. But alhamdulillah, I'm strong for my condition. And I may have lost the ability to walk over time, but I've still got strength in comparison to other people with the condition. So yeah, but anyways, that's a bit about the condition. But so I was diagnosed at 2 because of obviously not the medical advances that we have now. And I grew up, went to school. I didn't really think of myself as any different to anyone because I wasn't made to feel different. My parents always brought me up in such a positive way that didn't make me feel like I was a different just because I couldn't walk or get up off the floor properly is in comparison to other children or whatever. So I went through life feeling absolutely fine. And then when I hit secondary school, that's when the days came where it hit me that I am different in comparison to my friends. I'd look at, for example, I'd see my friends walking and I'd be like, oh, why can't I walk? I'd feel sad. Sometimes, it sounds really low, but I used to go to the bathroom and just cry in school because it was just so difficult. But obviously, I'm strong, so I just bottled all that up inside of me. No one knew how I felt apart from my few close friends, and obviously I don't have to tell my family, they just know. And then I never got bullied in school, alhamdulillah. Never ever did I experience that. I had a really great school experience. And then when I hit about year 10, I kind of grew into myself, and it sounds weird, but the way I explain it is that when I feel as though I'm not in a wheelchair with my surroundings or my people, that's how I know that, they're real people. I mean, when I don't feel like I'm in a wheelchair. But yeah, and now I made the move to university after sixth form, which is a big step.
Mashallah.
So I initially applied to university because, of course, first I thought, I want to go uni just because I'm in a wheelchair. Why is that going to let me, stop me? Because, we have these cultural barriers and these societal barriers that put people with disabilities on a pedestal lower than other people, able-bodied people. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to break these barriers and I'm going to show other people like me, if I can do it, you can do it. So I applied to university, and I initially didn't want to move out for university because obviously I was nervous, I was scared, I had the additional wheelchair thing to think about. And yeah, I just wanted to stay home because I don't think anyone really wants to move out.
Yeah, I'd be scared.
Yeah. So then I didn't get into Birmingham City University. And I got an offer from Leeds Beckett University, which was 2.5 hours away from where I live. So, of course, I was sad when I got the news, but I packed all my stuff and I moved out to university. And, that was a big step for me because obviously my mum and dad and my family were going to leave me after they packed and dropped me off and stuff. I was going to be alone. I'd never experienced that. I had the additional is everything going to be accessible? Will people like me? How am I going to get around everywhere? Will people judge me? Is there going to be, people that are actually nice and stuff? But I think that's just my brain that was overthinking, because alhamdulillah, I met the most amazing people through university. I love them, and I'm in my final year, which is going really fast.
That's so crazy.
It really is. And yeah, my wheelchair doesn't get in the way. So yeah, that's a bit of my story growing up.
Alhamdulillah, mashallah. And that's so crazy that you're in final year, because for those of you who are listening, I met Zaynab when we were both in sixth form, innit?
Yeah, been such a long time.
That's so crazy that you're in your final year now. Oh my god.
And you're in your second year.
Yeah, I got one more year to go still.
You got this.
InshaAllah.
But yeah, it's crazy. We just met unexpectedly. How did we meet?
Oh my gosh, yeah, should we tell them? Okay, so we met through Instagram. And then the first time that we actually met in person was your birthday party. You just randomly invited me the day before, and I was just like, yeah, sure, I'll come.
Yeah, and I was like, yay, Zaynab's here. And Zaynab was fully doing some proper nice dance moves for me.
Astaghfirullah.
You're so funny. No, but yeah, that's what happened.
That was such a good time.
It was very unexpected.
And we just clicked straight away. We were just
Exactly, it was just there. And it's, inshallah, it's always going to be there.
I think we bonded as well at the fact that we had the same name.
Definitely.
Kind of.
And also the fact that some people, my mum actually thought that I looked like you a bit on my birthday.
No way.
I don't think I ever told you that.
I feel like we do. I think we'd pass as cousins at least.
So do I. Love that. So yeah,
Sisters
that's
for life.
Always, inshallah.
Inshallah. But yeah, that was amazing. Your story is incredible to hear, and I know that obviously there must have been some kind of struggles and ups and downs, and like you said, alhamdulillah, for the most part your journey has been quite positive.
Yeah,
but I'm sure there must have been a few difficulties.
Yes, there was difficulties. So where do I start? There's so many experiences. So I'll start from the not something so deep first. So mainly I'd say the difficulties that I face, and probably a lot of people with disabilities face, of course, like difficulties in society, because society is not made for people with disabilities. It's made for able-bodied people. And of course there's a social model of disability now which looks at everyone holistically and tries to implement things into society to make it accessible. But is it always accessible? No. And I think that's a huge barrier for, I'm speaking on behalf of probably a lot of wheelchair users and people with disabilities, is not having the access to go to places you want to go, and having that kind of, thought process, is it going to be accessible? And then having to, for example, I was going to go out with my friends and I called to see, is it accessible? And they said, yeah. So we arrived and there was 4 stairs in front to get in. And it's like, you have to be open to be lifted in your chair upstairs. And how is that going to make someone feel? Like, it's not giving you the autonomy and respect. You wouldn't want to be carried.
That must be so frustrating.
It was frustrating, but of course we looked past it and we found somewhere else to go. But it shouldn't happen in today's day and age. And I know that advances in different areas are being made and a lot of places are more accessible, which is great, but we need to still carry on with that. There's a short story actually about that I wanted to just put in here. It's something I read.
Go for it.
Okay, so imagine there's a little city village for people who, are in wheelchairs. No able-bodied people are allowed in that village because it's only made for people in wheelchairs. Everything made in that village was, ramps, bus drivers who were in wheelchairs. Amazing. Ceilings adapted to the level of the wheelchair user, because it was a city for wheelchair users. So able-bodied people came to visit the village, and of course they banged their heads on the ceilings because they were so low. They had backaches. They couldn't sit on a bus because there was no seats for them to sit on, and they were classed as disabled in that society because they were the ones who were different. Do you get me? So that story just shows how much society has to adapt for us. But it shouldn't be a hard thing to adapt to because we're still humans at the end of the day.
It's literally 2021. Like, how are we still so far behind in this area?
I do not know. It's advancing, but I can't say fully because I have not been to a place where it's always accessible yet. So
have you seen a change since you were little to now?
To be honest, I don't actually know. There's still... I don't think so. So, for example, I used to go to masjid when I was younger. And the women's entrance had stairs. And I had to get carried into the mosque because there was no ramp. And I had to complain and write to the mosque several times to put a ramp in. Till this day... there is a ramp, but how many years after I complained about it? And I had to keep going to that mosque, having, that fear that, someone's going to have to lift me. And it's like, you don't want people to lift you. You're older, you want to do things yourself. But yeah, it's sorted now. So that's one of the struggles, just society in general. And the other struggle, I guess, is cultural barriers and stereotypes and just how people think about people with disabilities. I think if people's thoughts changed around how they view people with disabilities, which is changing now. I think you may have noticed too, because we've gone from that kind of medical model to a social model of disability where people are more accepting, but that's more so not in the Asian culture. Because I still experience things where, you know, when I'm growing up, you know, giving my mum these kind of like tips on how, she's gonna walk one day, you know.
Oh my God.
I even have, you know, aunties that come to my house now and they say, and they're like, you should try and stand, you should try and walk. And it's like...
What, they just fully say that?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
If you want to... And of course, it's probably coming from a sincere place in their heart because they don't know the full ins and outs about what disability is. But that's my point, that I think we need to educate the closed-minded people.
Yeah, they should know. They're fully grown adults.
But their generation is so different, and I think that's something that still goes on now. So that is one of the other barriers. What other barriers? Stereotypes, as I mentioned, people not believing in you and thinking that maybe your daughters aren't going to go to university, they're not going to get a degree because they're in wheelchairs. And what am I doing now? I'm going to graduate in 4 months and get my degree, inshallah. And the next step is a job and, inshallah, marriage. Because also, that's something I want to highlight. Marriage is, obviously, that's not a difficulty I'm facing right now. But it's something I think about. And it will be difficult because of the previous points I mentioned about cultural barriers and people not thinking, using their brains. You know, like, open your mind. We are maybe different to you in one aspect, that we can't walk, or we might not be able to see if, you know, you're visually impaired or hearing impaired, but we're humans. We're made from the same flesh as you, and Allah created all of us, you know. So who are you to judge? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my little bit of difficulties that I have faced.
And subhanAllah, you've come out of it like so strong, and I think that's something about you is like, you know, you mentioned stereotypes. I literally need to just applaud you on the fact that you've broken all of those stereotypes in like
Thank you
one
so
go,
much.
and like the fact that you're graduating and everything, like mashallah, it just goes to show like what you can achieve when you don't let stereotypes like that run your life.
Exactly. And thank you for that. The last thing I wanted to say is that of course I know I have limitations because of my wheelchair, but I want to be that person that's going to break the barriers for all the other people that felt like me, and I don't know, be that positive inspiration to them. And I've even been told, like, you know, by a lot of my other friends, like even you and my other friends, that you're so amazing, you're so inspirational. We don't see the... Sorry, my cat's meowing.
No, that's okay.
Can I let her out?
Yeah, sure.
Come on, Harmony.
Oh.
Where was I? Oh, yes. So I think overcoming the barriers is being told and hearing that you're inspiring, and having other people look up to you, even though I don't mean to be inspiring, like I just do my life, but people seem to find it inspiring. And yeah,
speaking of being inspiring, that's another thing that I wanted to mention is the Instagram account that you started up.
Yeah, thank you for mentioning that. So
At Wheelchair Hijabi.
Yeah, so I am Wheelchair Hijabi on Instagram. I recently made this page to share my story with everyone and connect with other people who might need that inspiration or that push to, you know, go through life with additional needs, or even for able-bodied people to look at my page and maybe be inspired to do more with what they have.
MashaAllah. And how's that been going?
It's been going great. Like, it's a lot of people have been liking my content. I've been loving sharing my content. I have a lot of funny stories on there, so I post not only a picture but also my video which explains the story alongside it, which I think is my unique selling point. But the responses that I've had in my DMs is like, oh, thank you, sis, for sharing. I've never found anyone who I can connect with so well. Is it bad that I just laughed at that story? And I'm like, no, that's the vibe I'm trying to give off. Like, it's a funny, positive platform where I can share the not so amazing things that have happened at the time, but the funny things to reflect on now.
And I think that's so important, and just like sharing it with other people so they can see like you're just a person living your life.
Exactly.
It doesn't have to be all depressing and that.
And if everyone could think the way that you do, then we wouldn't be having this conversation.
Yeah. So with your account and things, like, what made you like create that account, and like what was your purpose behind it?
Initially what made me start that account is I knew in some way that I wanted to share my story, but I just didn't know how. I previously started YouTube, which was quite a few years ago.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, which was, something that I thought, oh, let's give it a go. I didn't like it, so I stopped. And I thought, what's another platform that I can share my story without having to, upload like consistently? Like, of course I need to be more consistent, but you don't, I don't know, it's just a nicer platform.
There's more freedom.
Yeah. So that's what my friends inspired me to create that account, because they all said, Zaynab, just go for it, because I always knew I wanted to do something like it to inspire, because InshaAllah, in the future I do want to be a motivational speaker.
Oh, wow, InshaAllah.
So I feel like growing a platform before doing that is what inspired me. So I have my audience and stuff. And also, I know people who also have additional needs and have disabilities of their own. And I want to inspire them through that platform, because I feel like it's more personal. So, yeah.
But InshaAllah, you will. And
InshaAllah.
I'm going to make so much dua that this is just the beginning of your journey.
Oh, thank you.
You've got so much ahead of you. And with your personality, and I'm sure the listeners can literally hear the positive vibes coming off of you right now, mashallah.
Oh, thank you so much.
You're gonna go so far in life, inshallah.
InshaAllah.
And I'm gonna be there cheering you on.
Yay, thank you. I love you, and I will be there cheering you on. But just a plug, follow my Instagram, guys.
Yes, follow her up, please. Like and share.
Thank you.
At Wheelchair Hijabi, isn't it?
Yeah, Wheelchair Hijabi.
Inshallah, yeah. So another thing that I wanted to talk about with motivation is just a simple question, like, how do you stay motivated, I guess, in life in general?
Oh, that's such a good question. How do I stay motivated? Well, like you mentioned previously, positive attitude. That's one thing that keeps me motivated, definitely. And I think that I think an attitude that you have can literally impact you so much. I think the people that you surround yourself with, like your family as well, they motivate you as well as yourself. Like, even on days when you don't feel motivated, they can give you the motivation. So that's another thing. How else do I feel motivated? I think about what I have, what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given me, and how I should be grateful for that, and how I can utilize what I have. How else? Positive quotes, positive affirmations. Definitely staying in touch with faith. It keeps me going. If I didn't have Islam, or that kind of quote in the what's it called, the ayah or hadith, I don't know, where it says Allah is the best of planners, and with every hardship comes ease. And I think I live by them two quotes. I live by them, and I think that if I didn't have that, connection or faith, alhamdulillah, I have that, and gonna keep on my journey with it. But that keeps me motivated at the top. That's at the top of what keeps me motivated. Because that when you spend that time one-to-one reading your prayers or whatever. He's the one listening. Allah's listening, isn't he? So I think that's what keeps me motivated as well, on top of the other things I mentioned.
So have you always been like really like with your attitude, like have you always been positive?
No, I haven't. Good question. So from what I previously mentioned in the questions, you know, my barriers that I've faced in life and how I've gone through my story with you all, of course I had not been that positive, because disability does affect you. You feel different. You can feel left out. It's about your surroundings. And I think I haven't felt negative in a sense where it's been through my whole life. You have glimpses. Everyone goes through them days. I think everyone listening to me right now has them days where you just don't feel good, or you feel, you know, you've had negative times yourself, but you pull yourself out of it, because at the end of the day, your life is so much more than that. And you have so much to give, all of you listening as well.
So say like someone out there is going through one of those dips where they don't feel as motivated, what would you say to them? What advice would you give?
What advice would I give them? I would say that I know you don't know me, but I believe in you. And if you do feel like that, I think what the best thing to do, of course, first is to obviously turn to Allah first. Out of everything, turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala first. Sounds cliche, that's what everyone says, but it's very true. He's the one that if you're going to sit on that prayer mat, he's the one who's going to listen. And if you need to cry, let your tears out to him, literally. If it's the best feeling ever, and I've done it. Yeah, so I believe in you, and I know at the time you might not be believing in yourself, but you have so much potential, you have so much to give to the world, even if it might feel like you don't at the moment. I think we've all been through them dips, but yeah, just I think having the belief in yourself is so important, but also hearing it from other people. And I think other advice I'd give is surround yourself with positive people, because that can influence you a lot, literally. And also spending time with yourself is also good. So like maybe doing some journaling or gratitude of what you're grateful for. It can make you reflect on a lot, to be honest, in your life. And I think writing it, yes, well, I started it as a New Year's resolution and I stopped it. So, you know, it's an on-off thing with me, but I do write what I'm grateful for every day. And it's not like a broad, I'm grateful for my mum. It's something like you say, I'm grateful for my mum because that something specific that happened that day. What would you say? What advice would you give, Zaina, to someone?
I'd say, I think reflection as well is a really big one.
Yeah.
Once you've turned to Allah and you've reflected, that's when gratitude will come. And then when you're grateful, that's what like causes positive energy, if you know what I mean. I don't know how to word it properly, but you know what I mean.
No, I know
like
what you
when
mean.
you're grateful, you can't not be positive about life.
Exactly, because you're writing down literally everything that you're grateful for, which is positive attributes. So
yeah, so inshallah, anyone out there who's struggling, believe in yourself, turn to Allah, and you've got this. Inshallah.
Yeah, inshallah, we believe in you.
We do. Another thing that I wanted to talk about is, so you've had this disability now for almost all your life, basically. What would you say is like the biggest lessons it's taught you, like in life in general? Because I'm sure going through life, living in a society like this, there must have been like a few lessons that you've learned.
I think one of the lessons I've learned is that everyone's going to have their own opinion of you, regardless of disability or not. And I think it's just having that, like we mentioned, that positive mindset. Once you have that positive mindset and you believe in yourself and you love yourself, loving yourself is something that is so key. You can get through anything in life. Yeah, it's taught me that despite having a disability, despite being different in society's eyes, not everyone looks at you through that lens. there are people out there who do not see the disability. They see you as the person. So it's not all negative, like, oh, disability this, disability that. They're people that actually acknowledge you. They they see you as, like I mentioned, an inspiration. And I just reflect upon the fact that having a disability is probably something that I would never change.
Really?
Yeah, I wouldn't. If you ask me that question of if you had the chance to walk now, would you take it? If you asked me that about 10 years ago, I'd say, yeah, I want to walk. If you ask me that now, I'd say no. And that's coming from my heart, because I only know the life that Allah chose for me to have. And that is this life of, living, rolling on my four wheels. You know what I mean? And this is the life that I know. So I'm not going to change it, because Allah's plan is the best, as I mentioned. And that's what I live by. So, yeah.
And that's true acceptance, when you can say that, when you can answer that question and say, no, I wouldn't change a thing.
And accepting yourself is the biggest thing to reflect on as well. Because once you accept yourself, once you believe in yourself, once you love yourself, once you have that connection with Allah, once you've created them bonds with these positive people surrounding around you, that's all you need. That's all you need, literally. And there's this one analogy I wanted to share, actually. I listened to it the other day. Is that you have to remember that your life is like a tree. Some people are the leaves, and they're going to come in your life and they're going to fly away so quickly that you're going to not even realize that they even exist. The branches, these are the people that come in your life for quite a bit of time, but they come here just to, wiggle your branch and then snap it eventually and leave. And then the roots are the important things that you need, that will nourish you and help you stand, ironically stand. But the roots are the important people that you need, the ones that hold you upright. You don't need them branches, you don't need the leaves. Let them fly away, let them snap. But you need the roots. And everything that I mentioned in that previous sentence before this are your roots. And that's all you need to grow. And reflect on what you have in comparison to what maybe you don't have, and be grateful.
I really like that metaphor. That's amazing, mashallah.
Thank you. I do not take the credit. I don't know who to give it to, because I don't know the name of the person in the video, but I heard it from someone.
Credit to whoever said that.
Credit whoever said that. Okay, this is just one final point to anyone, actually, that you are capable of what you put your mind to do. So if you believe you can do something, you can achieve it. And to other people, maybe if there's people in wheelchairs listening, I don't know, or people with disabilities might be listening to this, I just want to let you all know that also, that I'm here for you, to talk to you if you ever need to. And I would love to hear your reflections as well on your life. Would you like to hear that, Zaynab, from them?
I would indeed.
We'd love to hear all of your stories, what keeps you motivated as well. And what are your views on disabilities, just for my interest as well.
Well, to be completely honest, you're my first friend that I've had who has had a disability. So before you, I don't think I've ever met anyone in a wheelchair, I don't think.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy?
I'm so special. Look at me.
Exactly. You're so special, mashallah. But yeah, so
as are you.
Growing up, it's not something that I had a negative view on, but it's just something that I didn't really think about.
Yeah.
It just wasn't something that came to mind, because obviously it wasn't in my life at all. So then when I met you and I was just like, oh my gosh, this girl is amazing. It made me think we need to start thinking about these things, and we need to stay open-minded, like you said before about the whole cultural thing. Just because they're part of the older generation, yeah, it was different for them growing up, but the world's different now, and we all need to stay open-minded and connected, because that's so important. And it's something that we need to, I can't think of the right words, but it's just something that we need to be aware of. I think that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, and I agree with you. And I think if anyone's listening to this podcast, I think that's a big thing you need to take away from this, is be open-minded. If you see someone with a disability, talk to them. don't just, because I know some people have them like images in their mind, oh, let me talk to them like they're a baby or something. We're normal. We're just like you. Talk to us how you would talk to anyone else. We want to feel included.
Yeah, I've heard of that so much. Like they wouldn't talk to you, but they'd talk to like your parents or someone who's standing next to you and like ask, would she like it?
I've
experienced
would she like something?
That. Like, you know what I mean?
I've experienced that.
Yeah, like, didn't you say, I think it was, when we were in Nando's or something, you were telling me about a time where you were sitting down and someone asked your mom what you would like to order.
I think so, yeah.
Right in front of you.
But there was a story actually when I went to the GP surgery with my friend, and they were asking my friend next to me what my name was when she could clearly see me.
Oh my God.
And that's the only one experience I have experienced of that, and I haven't really experienced any more of it at the moment, which is great. But I think it's just something for the people listening to take away from this. Be open-minded.
Would you say that's your final thoughts? Because at the end of every episode, I like to leave my listeners with one final thought, like what you would want them to reflect on the most. So would you say that's your final thought?
Yes, that is it. Yeah, so my final thought to actually reflect on for everyone is to stay open-minded. Think like of people with disabilities as no different to you. Although they may be a bit different, we're still humans. And that's what I want you to take away from this. And I think once everyone in society or everyone's minds are open, especially the people, as I mentioned, of the cultural society of, older generations, it's like people with disabilities have that ingrown fear of what their future is going to look like. And for example, from my point of view, I'm just going to say how I feel at the moment, because obviously I'm 20. My friends, we all talk about marriage, we all talk about our futures, and it's something that I have to consider more in my head, because not everyone's open-minded. So it does scare me in a sense for my future, in terms of how is it going to turn out and stuff. But I think that's why it's really important to reflect on being open-minded, because then people won't have to think and be nervous or apprehensive about their future like I am.
Speaking of which, what's next for you? What's next for Zaynab?
What's next for me? Inshallah, I'm gonna graduate this year
Inshallah.
as a qualified speech and language therapist, making a difference. Alhamdulillah for that. Inshallah, get my first job, which I need to start applying for some. And then inshallah down the line work, and then of course marry the person that is made for me, inshallah. And yeah, breaking all them barriers, that's what I want to do in my whole life now. And motivational speaking whenever that comes. So yeah, so inshallah that's what's coming for me. But what is coming for you, Zaynab, before we end this?
Oh, me? Oh my gosh. I want people to listen to this podcast and reflect on everything, and I want to continue doing things like this, and obviously finish my degree as well. Inshallah.
Yeah, inshallah.
That's pretty much it, to be honest. Same things, marriage and having good vibes, inshallah.
Inshallah. Perfect. And I will be with you through all of the steps in your life as well. So
same here, inshallah. I can't wait to see what you achieve.
Yeah, inshallah.
So thank you so much for joining me. This has been amazing. You're definitely going to come on again.
Yes,
so
thank
everyone, you're going to be seeing Zaynab on this podcast again. Don't worry. Inshallah.
Inshallah.
But thank you so much for joining me, and inshallah, I'll see you guys in the next episode. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you. Allah Hafiz.